You need to send him that WAP thing. Do it. Because I want to see his reaction once he looks at it. I really do.
We'll do that later. We got to start the show.
Do it right now.
No,
do it right now.
You're not talking about Gilbert Gottfried, are you?
No. But that's hilarious.
But that is also funny.
Wait, have you not seen that?
We have to start the show, fucking Christ.
I will show you after.
You should have seen it.
Okay, Gilbert Gottfried singing or just reading the lyrics to WAP is fucking amazing.
Oh my god. Alrighty, are we ready?
Yep.
You have a drink? Cling, clang, cling,
cling, clang,
cling, clickety clang, all over the place. Look at this evil skull. Look at it. Be prepared for Halloween. Hello and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Brent the Jesterhead Metcalf. Along to my left,
the dispatcher, Mark Plover.
And on the right,
Handsome John.
And of course, we are here as we gather together each and every week to discuss with you the very cool tech news and super nerdy video game news that comes out there. But we don't have time to discuss everything. I don't know if you noticed, our episodes have been really long recently because the news has been fucking outrageous. We don't have time to discuss the fact that Sony won't put its first-party games directly on a streaming service because it's not sustainable. We also won't talk about the fact that Naughty Dog is already teasing some really cool announcements for The Last of Us Day, previously known as Outbreak Day. We also don't have time to discuss how former Skullgirls devs have struck out. That's the word.
Stroked out.
That's what I was doing earlier. Struck out on their own to make a game studio co-op known as the Future Club. But we do have time to talk about what we like to call on this very show each and every week as we gather together under this wonderful umbrella of strange gaming and in our quarantine bunkers as we drink more booze. What we like to call the important.
Oh God, what's the point?
We're gonna start with the dispatcher himself because, well, actually, no, I lied. I'm gonna redirect live on the fly. We're gonna start with Handsome John because his is less connected than our two. Okay, we'll do it live.
Okay, we'll do it live. PS5 will not be backwards compatible with PS3, PS2, or PS1 games.
They fucking lied to us, John.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoever. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, whoever thought that was going to happen, I don't know what your rationale was, but it didn't seem likely. Yes. Unfortunately, the only way to play PS3 or PS2 titles is with PS Now, which is available on PlayStation 4, which, according to Sony or Sony's Jim Ryan, the PS5 will also be compatible with PS Now. We don't know to what extent that means. Mm-hmm. So until later on, But if you want to play PS1 titles, you're more than welcome to get a PS Vita.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, buddy.
No.
Unfortunately, they were more concerned about the development of the PS5, playing the PS4 games, which the PS4 saying that the PS5 will play 99% of the PS4 games is huge. Yep. That's a big deal. I mean, that's more backwards compatibility that we got from PS4 to PS3 or 100%. PS3 to PS4. I mean. So it's not all bad. We're going in a positive direction, but they said they were more focused on their hardware, the new SSD, and they didn't have the formatting capability between the 4 to the 5. So it was like, I get where they're coming from. Is it BS? Maybe some of it, but there's no real way to know until they screw up like, I don't know, Remedy did and flip the switch and go, never mind.
No, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, like, literally, we in March, Mark Cerny released his GDC talk, right? We all watched it live and communicated with one another. We commented on it. And one thing communicado. You are excommunicado. I love that word because it drives one of our close friends nuts all the time. So he mentioned it like, hey, if you're going to build in backwards compatibility, here's how this works. You either build in the functionality where you're emulating it, or you are running a variation of that previous gen hardware on there. And considering the fact that PS3 is so drastically different from PS2, PS1, and PS4 is closer to a PC, like PS4 and PS5 are probably the closest compatibility wise. PS1 and PS2 are too. Like, so you got the beginning of the generations and the end of the generations, and the middle kind of fucks everything.
Well,
So it's hard.
the formats of the discs were very different between 1 and 2 as well.
They were, but PS2 literally could play PS1 games backwards compatible. Like, so like if we're talking about how the hardware actually worked, 1 and 2, 4 and 5, 3 throws a monkey wrench into all of that, you know. And on top of the fact that most people have talked, like the one thing that's beautiful about Game Pass is that they have access to a large portion of the Xbox 360, and the Xbox One library digitally. I would love to know the stats of the people who actually go back and play Xbox One original games, right?
And I was telling Mark, sorry to interrupt you, but I was telling Mark, I have 3 games on my shelf that are PS3 games that I would love to play right now. That if I had my PS5 and it was backwards compatible, that would be awesome. Army of Two, Mirror's Edge, Enslaved. Love those games. Great staples. I'd probably end up playing. Like right now, I was actually thinking about playing Mirror's Edge, pulling out my PS3. Yeah,
there you go.
I mean,
I literally have this little machine so I can emulate and run old generation games. Like, I'm king backwards compatibility. Trust me, I would love for this to be a reality. But I also understand what their desire is. I also have
it's
hope.
very niche. I think it's a lot more niche than people really take. You hear the minority saying, we want backwards compatibility. I'm like, show me the numbers. Show me the numbers of people that are playing outside of like super specific things like Final Fantasy or what was Ease? Is it Easy? Ease? No, it's not
Ease, but Ease would not be one that people.
What was the other one Brian was playing?
Oh God, it's called Tales. No, it's
Area? No.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. You can go.
Anyway, those level things that are close to I could understand and that have high significant value to even what's being remade today, such as Final Fantasy VII, for instance. You might want to go back and play those games. Yeah, I get it. But right now, most of everybody that's getting a PS5 had a PS4, and you have the backwards compatibility on PS Now.
Yeah, well,
no reason for them to go through all that effort right now unless there was some outrageously huge demand for it. But with all the new games coming out, how are you going to really find all the time?
I think they covered the core issue, right? Again, 99% of PlayStation 4 games are coming to PlayStation 5s or playable, not coming to playable. So that's really the big issue, because you don't want to upgrade from your current generation console to the next gen and not be able to play the games you own right now. If you end up not being able to play those games in the future, I don't think that's that big of a deal for a majority of people.
A lot of people sell their games back.
The other side of it too. I mean, short of like the discs themselves not being compatible with the drive itself, or you getting the all digital edition and it not mattering. Realistically, emulation software at this point, the computational power now can outperform what the PS3 had by a long shot, even with emulation. And so, I mean, if they wanted to down the line, they could build the software for it if there was a big enough desire for PS3, PS2, PS1 playability on new consoles.
Well, and that's where my conspiracy theory, I put that in quotes because I don't think it's really a conspiracy theory, but that's what Legend of Legaia, I found it, John. That's what it is. But that's where, I have positivity, I have optimism towards, is that PlayStation Now is a fledgling enterprise, despite the fact that it's been out for like 6 years. It honestly is like Sony is still not putting enough into it. I do believe that we're going to see that turn around, because we're going to talk later about Microsoft's acquisitions. Like, Microsoft is pressuring them. They have no choice. They're going to have to do something with that platform. I
would say Game Pass is going to reign if PS5, if PlayStation doesn't stand up to do something with it, though.
100%. So I think that it truly does make sense to me for Sony to come back for, they're going to launch strong. They're going to do well, but Game Pass and Microsoft's acquisitions in the next 2 or 3 years are really going to start to kick in, and Sony's going to have to come up with something. What do you come up with? Boom, we've got PS1, PS2, PS3, the entire life cycle of the PlayStation here available. We're working with third-party publishers to bring back any games they want to. We'll apply trophies to any games that they want to. Man. You're going to be able to really come in swinging. There's no reason to do it now. Why not bring in new people and just bridge over the players you've had from PS4?
Yep.
So, sad, but makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we move on?
No, I'm not surprised. But we may see something down the line, but I don't think we'll see anything anytime soon.
I mean, we've talked about this kind of thing before too. It's very much a market's not quite there for it, it kind of makes sense.
But please let us know what you think about the lack of PS1, 2, and 3 games. I hate that. I'm sorry. I want to rewind. The fact that PS5 will only play PS4 and PS5 games natively. Let us know in the comments floating directly in front of me like egg on my face because I said it wrong the first time.
That's happening.
It's a phrase. Come on, folks.
For those of you watching, that just happened.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope you actually overlay it. I love just giving Mark little small projects to do for editing the show. But moving on to the dispatcher's topic himself. We're talking about Linux and Microsoft. Why?
Well, because Microsoft bringing Edge, the follow-up browser to Internet Explorer, to Linux.
I like it. I don't know what your guys' problem is.
And all I have to say is no. And speaking of no, Brent, go ahead with the next topic. No.
All right. So we're not...
No. So there's actually a little bit to this. So in development space, in like for larger corporations anyway, like I can kind of speak to this from Bank of America's side specifically anyway for past employment, is that old technology was still being used from Microsoft's side there. So Internet Explorer 9 through 11 was still kind of required for some of the software that we use because we were using old tech, and legacy tech kind of still reigns in some of those big environments where remodeling like that is going to take entirely too long for such big business systems, that you just kind of deal with the expense and the slowness of older technology and trying to maintain it, or working with other companies to maintain their old technology too. So Edge, being the continuation of Internet Explorer, is supposed to have an emulation tech built into it soon as well, with Internet Explorer's previous versions built in. Now that's going to benefit Windows as well, but the point here is that Linux in the large enterprise space has always been kind of a problem because you don't have Internet Explorer period or Edge at all to be able to emulate those web pages. So you always end up in a two-machine scenario where if the developer requires Linux, or let's say a systems engineer requires Linux to be able to work with their systems more efficiently, they also have to maintain a Windows system side by side just to maintain their Internet Explorer systems or Internet Explorer just to work with their management systems or whatever software they have at the time that would be web-based. Like, God forbid you're still working with something that uses Microsoft Silverlight. You're not going to find that on Edge. You're not going to find that on Chrome. You're not going to find that on Firefox. Internet Explorer is the only thing that still uses that. So
I haven't thought about Microsoft Silverlight in God knows how many years.
Well, Flash falls right along the same lines. I mean, Edge,
100%.
Chrome, and Firefox by default block it. Actually, in Chrome, it's not even an option anymore. It used to be if you wanted to, because Flash is terribly insecure. It really is, which is why Apple took a ton of flack back in, was it 2008, 2007 with the iPhone 3G, whenever they flat out said in the browser, we're not going to support this, but Android did. It was a big security flaw.
It's about as insecure as my ego.
Moving on. So Internet Explorer is the only thing that would still stand up to being able to use that. So Edge having sort of the secure emulator for Internet Explorer 11 will benefit Windows. Them migrating to Linux will benefit a lot of those big enterprise customers that are still looking for IE11 support, but need it available in a Linux space. So I can't completely fault Microsoft for this.
It makes sense. I mean,
but no.
Do you think Browser Stack was really upset? Yeah, because Browser Stack's like a little application you get online to emulate other browsers.
I know that.
Oh yeah, I use it all the time. Because I hate downloading, because they do specific versions, so you can version your As someone who worked on a really old platform at a company that Mark and I both worked on together, it was required. That was a really dumb joke that made no sense to you, apparently. So,
but so Microsoft's even going the next level too. Microsoft 365 is also dropping IE11 support. Period.
Wow.
So their own service, their own cloud-based service is also dropping IE11 support, but that's also because That's the last step for them to completely phase out IE11. It will literally only be beneficial for companies like Bank of America that still use old systems that would still have applications built on it at that point, which is the only reason to build an emulator in for it.
See, that's what I was going to point out is like Microsoft. The one thing a lot of people kind of forget, especially in the fervor of the home wars. I don't know how you'd call it because it's not just PC, because it is like about computers and then home devices like your phone and whatnot between Apple and Windows. But Windows is still a large, like a vastly superior portion of the population when it comes to like your actual computers. Mark's going to correct me if
I
I'm
will
wrong.
look up the OS market share. Here it is. Windows is 87.62%.
There you go.
Mac OS comes in at a not so close second at 9.4%.
Yeah, like it is stupid how much of our electronic age is run on Windows. So when we talk about the fact that,
and I also want to note that data is as recent as August of 2020.
There we go. Perfect. So yeah, it is not hyperbole to say that, you know, Microsoft really does push a lot of the operating systems of the things that we use, and that not just us, but like everything. When you think about like nuclear power plants, and you know, they may not use it directly to
whatever.
They may not use it directly to interface with these specific pieces of like hardware, but they use them to communicate. They use them to keep up to date. Like
the majority of like things in the digital age, for example, like Linux operating systems only take up like 2.6 something percent of the operating systems in use for consumer PCs. But the majority of operating system setups anyway across industries is generally that your people work with Windows. Your applications work on Linux.
Correct.
And that's the distinction too, is, you know, like Linux is sort of there. Linux does technically, if you think about every computer in existence, including servers, because servers are computers, technically the majority of them do run Linux.
Yeah.
And I don't properly, but
I'm sure we could. Yeah.
But the idea is, of course, that most people work with Windows on a regular basis.
Yeah, and also being able to kind of integrate both between Microsoft technology and Linux is important, which is why Microsoft is making this move. It makes sense for the enterprise alone, right? For all these large corporations that force it upon individuals. So,
I'm interested to see it come to Linux, but I don't necessarily know that I'm going to be the one trying that out.
It's my PDF reader on my current Windows machine, so that's what I use Edge for.
All right, so that.
Okay.
Android.
I love live reactions.
So this is actually. I mean, this includes mobile phones and everything. Actually.
Okay.
In fact, Android actually owns 42.72% of the market, the OS market share.
What? Well, okay, yeah.
Across desktops, laptops, mobile phones, and everything.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem to include servers. But still an interesting bit to see here. So
it's almost like Microsoft is really starting to spread themselves out to become a service-based company and not really worrying about the hardware they're on, or even sometimes the software they're on. They're just kind of expanding out everywhere. Like a fucking infectious disease.
Or was it like a virus?
Yeah.
Time to move on to my topic of the show. Please let us know what comments you have about Edge coming to Linux in the comments directly above Mark, because he's super happy he got to talk about it like a super niche nerdy topic. It was really good. I liked it. I enjoyed it too.
No,
but now it's
I'm still
time
just
to
going to say no.
About the big topic. I was trying to make sure I did not say anything inappropriate. I can say it.
There's a
big
fucking cabinet right there.
Swinging. Yeah, there's a fucking
swinging.
cabinet right there. It was really funny where Josh is like, whoop. The big dick swinging topic of our show, which happened yesterday. We record on Tuesday. It happened on Monday, the 21st. Microsoft has announced they are buying ZeniMax Studios and therefore also acquiring Bethesda and all of its various studios. That's 7 studios total, if I remember correctly.
Is that a big deal, really? I mean, why is that a part of the newscast? Can we just like find something else to talk about?
$7.5 billion. $7.5 billion. That is $3.5 billion more than Disney spent on Star Wars. Let those numbers sink in for a second, because that is, oh boy.
Well, and they squandered the hell out of that. So
I can't read the Bloomberg article. I'm apparently.
Oh my god! I really like to support Jason Schreier, but if we can't read it, it doesn't help at all. Like even a little bit. Go away. I'm trying.
The thing is, like with these types of games, they are very much pointed at a very specific niche of people. But at the same time, this consequence is going to. What this is going to do is spread over time. It's not going to be an immediate effect thing. And I'm more curious to how, if Xbox was clever and they were ruthless, they could bring more people over to the dark side, or whatever side you want it to be. But with Elder Scrolls Online or Elder Scrolls 6 coming out, in probably 2023 at the earliest?
Yeah, probably.
People are clamoring for wanting, some specific Fallout games to come out because, they've got history but it just, there's not enough to me, because I'm not involved with those developers enough to feel what other people are feeling.
So we're gonna dive into some of this, right? So first of all, they've acquired 6 studios in this. They acquired Bethesda Game Studios, ZeniMax Online Studios, id Software, Arcane Studios, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks. This is 8 studios, not 6. Alpha Dog Games, and Roadhouse Studios. Roadhouse is a new studio, literally formed in 2019. Alpha Games, or Alpha Dog Games, is iOS, so that's basically where they get their Fallout Shelter and stuff like that.
Yep.
Tango Gameworks is known for The Evil Within, The Evil Within 2, and then the various games that are surrounding that. Machine Games is Wolfenstein, so all the Wolfenstein games that have been recent memory are from that. Arcane Studios is Dishonored, Dishonored 2, and the newest version of Prey, while id Software is literally the people who made Doom. They started with Doom. They actually are the progenitors of Wolfenstein 3D and Quake. They are the fucking big people we're talking about,
the
first-person systemic gaming. Yeah. And then, of course, Bethesda has Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and ZeniMax is in charge of Elder Scrolls Online. So there's some interesting things that are coming out of this that I still want to dive into before we go to reactions. One of which is Elder Scrolls Online will continue to function on PS4, which is not surprising. When Microsoft bought Mojang, they continued to support Minecraft. As a matter of fact, this week they rolled out PlayStation VR support for Minecraft on PS4. So
really, I'm curious how Minecraft would look on VR.
Me too.
Probably.
Xbox will also honor the previously timed exclusive deals that are on paper for Deathloop and Tokyo Ghostwire, both of which are timed exclusives for PS5, which is one of those things they release as a press release because it makes them look good, but realistically, they can't break those contracts. Let's be honest.
I was going to say, even if there was an exit clause that they wanted to break it, why?
Most of the time, when you have somebody who buys out a company like this, those contracts do not have to be upheld.
That is fair.
Well, it depends. I mean, generally, if you're buying a company, let's say if you're who's the actual publisher on
ZeniMax.
ZeniMax.
So ZeniMax is the parent company of the entire thing, which is what they're buying.
So, but ZeniMax isn't the publisher. What I'm saying is on Deathloop.
Yeah, they publish their own games. They self-publish.
Okay. Well, so regardless, the idea is if you're buying ZeniMax, part of the purchase of ZeniMax is you're purchasing those contracts. They're supposed to be transferable, is the point. You're supposed to be just as responsible for those as and I guess this may be a bad equivalent, but if you buy a house in an HOA zone, for example, HOAs are legally enforceable. You have to sign that contract if you buy that house.
If you buy the property,
it's part of the property. It's not necessarily part of who owns it.
There's an argument to me that they could come back and renegotiate the contract, but I do agree. I think they have to keep that contract.
Oh, they do as it is. I mean, if they wanted to try to negotiate it and say, well, you guys said, asterisk available on PC as well. Hey, let's make that Xbox also, they might be able to renegotiate for that kind of thing. As a timed exclusive, just like they said with Deathloop and the other one.
Tokyo Ghostwire.
So if they decided hey, the rest of these can also be, the rest of, anything else that we negotiate as well from here on out, could also be timed exclusives that release to Xbox later. That's something they would probably.
The only thing I can think of is that there would be something where if the time exclusivity failed under any circumstance, they would be refunded whatever money they were giving for the exclusivity. Microsoft is like, I'd rather keep the money.
Well, yeah, after spending $7.5 billion.
I mean, at that point, that transaction's so far forward, whatever money would have been exchanged in that contract is probably more than a year in at this point. So, what would be the point of trying to reverse that or find the exit clause to get out?
It's more likely
longer. I could definitely see you
that.
wanting to grab Deathloop out of that, though, and going, it would be really nice to have that, so close to launch.
So let me lay down the facts and we'll go in. We also have Bethesda's own statement in which their who is it, CEO? I cannot remember what he actually fits in. He's the spokesperson at every single one of their E3 conferences.
Bithell?
No, Pete Hines. He is the PR of marketing. Has talked about why they're joining Xbox, stating basically it just gives them more resources. That's the whole point. They can make the games they want without having to worry about, which is pretty much what everyone has said. Seemingly they'll be left independent, but they can continue to make the games that they're looking for.
I'm sure somebody else has made this statement at this point of this comparison, but Microsoft is becoming Epic.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
The difference is they want to be the seller of software.
The difference is this is the first right step that they would have made. Epic's made a lot of other right steps in but
yes.
Microsoft is in a very good position to become a better Epic as long as they. I mean, can you imagine if Microsoft absorbed Discord?
Well, that's the thing. They've already that's a hell of a migration because we were just talking about this the other day. Tencent, if you guys didn't know, owns a good market share of Discord. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
but I mean, Discord's a pretty valuable asset to pull in, so that's a pretty big buy. But I don't know,
Microsoft got deep pockets, bro.
I mean, they got deeper pockets than Epic does. I mean, Epic's relying on one game at this point to really fund their entire venture at this point. Which, don't get me wrong, has been profitable. But
they also have their Unreal Engine.
Microsoft has.
They make
what we just talked about is 82% or 87% of the market share of operating systems on the in existence right now. So, or for desktops.
Yeah, granted, Unreal Engine is quite a big dick to swing on their part.
I would not downplay Unreal Engine considering how many games it is used.
And it's not just Unreal Engine is not just used for games; they're used for other things too.
100%.
But Fortnite was still the primary moneymaker, wasn't it?
So Fortnite is their biggest moneymaker to date. It is making more money than Unreal. So they're definitely making the moves they're making now because they have that cash. But to downplay the impact of Unreal on Epic,
no. I'm not saying the impact is awful. What I'm saying is the revenue stream that each company has is vastly different than, one than the other there,
I mean, Microsoft
is the apparent company, and it's not like Google where there's Alphabet is the parent company where they've got to do money movement between subsidiaries. No. It's just straight up Microsoft. Yeah, you got Xbox division and you've got, Windows division. Done.
They chose not to spin that off. Actually, they kept it as directly under Microsoft, so they can just throw in money whenever the hell they want. Mm-hmm. I was laughing, segue real quickly, because I was reading the Bloomberg article the morning it came out, and Microsoft was down 4 points. So the stock ticker was showing Microsoft down while I'm reading that they bought Bethesda.
I mean, at that point, it's okay, let's just go and buy real quick. And
yep.
Let's put it this way. How much do you think Fortnite makes them a year?
I don't know.
It was a couple $100 million, I thought, wasn't it?
$3.5 billion a year.
There you go. So in 2 years, they can buy
and Epic is saying that without exact numbers, but annual revenue from license agreements for Unreal Engine is somewhere in the ballpark of about $1 billion, give or take, 50% one way or the
Curious
other.
what the revenue for Windows is.
Yeah. You look that up. I'm going to talk about how Todd Howard says that now that they're moving under Microsoft, they're actually getting ready to basically redo their engine across the board. So Bethesda is notorious for their buggy engine. He is very excited about the fact that Microsoft is basically giving them tools to allow them to completely overhaul their engine to make sure that it is the best version they could have possible for the next Fallout game, Starfield, and more. Speaking of Starfield apparently was in talks with Sony to be a PS5 timed exclusive as well. However, those talks did not complete before this acquisition, so that will not be the case. And I think that is the end of it. Fans are also clamoring for the fact that because they own Obsidian and now Bethesda, a Fallout New Vegas 2 or a sequel to Fallout New Vegas in some form can finally happen. So they want it to happen now. But looking at the list of first-party studios Microsoft has, including this acquisition, is what makes it super interesting. They now have 23 first-party studios. 343, which makes Halo. They have Compulsion Games, which has done Contrast and We Happy Few, very much known for We Happy Few. But John, you and I played Contrast when PS4 launched.
Yeah,
that game with the
I didn't
girl in
play
the
very
shadows.
long, but yeah.
Double
Watched you play.
Fine Productions, which is Psychonauts and a lot of the older style games. They have In Exile, which is The Bard's Tale, and Wasteland 3, which is just came out. Mojang, of course, for Minecraft.
Yep.
Ninja Theory for Bleeding Edge and Hellblade. And then Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. We've got Obsidian Entertainment, which is Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, and Grounded. And they have their new game they just announced.
Enslaved.
Avowed. Yeah, now they own it. Playground Games, which is, of course, the Forza series, and they're working on the newest Fable. Rare, which has Battletoads, Sea of Thieves, and their Everwild, which is coming out soon. The Coalition, which worked on the Gears franchise. The Initiative, which was created in 2018. We have no idea what they're making. Turn 10 Studios, which is all about Forza as well. The Undead Lab studio, which has State of Decay. World's Edge, which is working on Age of Empire. Xbox Studio Publishing, and then, of course, the 8 Bethesda studios. So Microsoft literally owns the entirety of your major studios when you're talking about Western RPGs. It doesn't matter what style of Western RPG you're talking about, from Age of Empire to Fallout to Skyrim, or to my God, what's it? Elder Scrolls. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did that myself. Yeah.
I wanted to say Oblivion, but
yeah. And then Obsidian, who makes these other more niche D&D style games of like Pillars of Eternity. It is astounding to think about the fact, and honestly, it makes sense. I'm not much of a nationalist. I think it's pretty obvious on this show. I do feel pride in where I live and what we are, but I'm not someone who's like, American companies should only shop American. But Microsoft has done they've literally done what Sony was doing for years and what other publishers like Square Enix have done, which is, hey, we're going to develop and we're going to envelop these smaller companies in our region to make ourselves a prominent party hold, so that when you think about JRPGs, you think Square Enix. There are other companies like Atlas under Sega, but when you primarily think JRPG, it comes to Final Fantasy, it comes to the Tactics Ogre series, it comes to Dragon Quest. All of that's under Square Enix. That's JRPG Central. Level 5 is like a blip on the map below them because they haven't done really good games for a while. Yes.
So I finally got the number.
Oh, yes.
For 2019. Windows alone, this includes Surface. Actually, personal computing is the accounting acronym section, but it was $11.1 billion. What did you? What did you say? What did you say?
Unreal was 1.
Unreal was 1 billion. What was Fortnite? 3. And that $11.1 billion is only a third of Microsoft's total revenue.
God.
33.06.
So I have the numbers for their
33.06 billion was the revenue for the. Oh, I'm sorry. 33.06 billion in revenue in the start of its first 2020 fiscal quarter. I'm sorry, that was one quarter's revenue was $33.06 billion.
Check out the chat. I put in what 18, 19, and 17 was for their revenue.
Yeah.
Did you read out loud?
by anywhere between 13 to 14% every year
Every
to
year.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entirety of 2019. Yeah. Their fiscal year,
Yeah.
which is the calendar year, was $134.249 billion. I mean, I'm just saying, Microsoft has a big dick to swing with. They're going to swing with it if they can. And Epic, while having good intentions, will bring the genuine hearted from the gaming community. Microsoft has obviously an ulterior motive of trying to push their own console and their operating system at the same time, as well as a gaming platform in the middle of Game Pass to support all of this, basically.
I mean, literally, them buying all these companies for $7.5 billion was a piss in the bucket. In the past 3 years alone, they almost made $400.
So
it's a piss in the bucket that will make them even more money.
So
yes.
how long do you think it is before they buy up a VR company?
I think the problem right now is
I think that's the next play for them.
The only one they would want to buy is Oculus, maybe.
Oculus is Facebook, isn't it? So
yeah,
Oculus is Facebook.
I mean, maybe
has
Steam's.
their own. I don't think there's another independent VR hardware maker out there.
Drone.
So
VR. I mean, why? Yeah, I mean, Steam. What couldn't they technically buy like Steam's tech? And because I mean, they're PC based anyway. Why wouldn't they want to get in on that, or at least push it?
Steam has always kind of been their own thing. Lord Gaben has always been kind of his own, like he's always kind of run his business in the sense of maintaining its own independence to some extent. Now with that comes obviously some closed door attitude about things and also terrible customer service. Just because he refuses to say anything, and if you have a problem with it, suck it up, deal with it.
No,
unless they have unless they have a massive technical glitch, then of course, then they're legally liable. But other than that, they don't want to touch their money. They don't want to share anything. They don't want to do any of that.
But if they could do a partnership, I mean, that would only benefit him.
Yes and no, because the problem is then it's a profit share with Microsoft too, and that may not be something they do with. And to be honest, Steam's history has always been our money is our money. Off if you don't like it.
They literally have their client that is run prominently on Windows machines, and they are not working with them on pretty much anything. I don't see why they would.
For them, as far as games are concerned, they build their system to run. They run Steam. They build Steam to run correctly on Windows. Their games, for example, the only reason the games run as well as they do, like CS:GO, for example, or any Valve-based game, for example, is it's optimized by the graphics card companies that build for them. Because, and I've talked about this before, of course, AMD and NVIDIA do their own optimization for the games that are out there for their own hardware, but they don't really rely on Microsoft to do anything like that. They don't partnership with them to do anything or make it run better. They may have a direct line for support if they need it, but that may be the extent. They've never openly, they've never openly done anything to try to partner with hardly anybody of them.
Yeah, I mean they do small collaborations when it comes to their franchises, but when it comes to actual partnership on that level, I think they just don't. Gabe Newell specifically, I think, has the ideology of like, I control this space, we control this space as a company, and that's the space we'll stay in because I don't want to lose that control.
Yep.
Ultimately, but dialing back to the Bethesda acquisition, I think what is super interesting here is one, the impact, of course, on other consoles, right? Like Skyrim has released on 14 different consoles, including the Switch, including PS4, and sold well enough. I mean, 30 million copies across 14 consoles isn't a terrible thing to sneeze at, though it's interesting that it's only 30 million across 14 consoles when Grand Theft Auto 5, I think, has sold,
1 sec. We had a Wikipedia article not longer about it.
Honestly, it's no different than Sony's franchises, right? A majority of Sony's franchises that are prominent, especially in the PS4 age, they tip the scales of 10 million. Spider-Man, I think, is at 14. But for the most part...
So Microsoft, or apparently Minecraft sits at the top at 200 million. Grand Theft Auto sits at 135 million.
So
but that's over 3 generations of freaking consoles?
2.
Only 2,
about to be 3.
2013 was the release of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah. So PS3 and PS3 and 360. Yeah. 2, 4, and 1.
Yeah, the PlayStation's most successful is anywhere between 15 to 10 million, and that's between Uncharted.
Spider-Man's their most successful, I think, if I remember correctly, on PS4.
I didn't know this. PUBG apparently sits
God
at
of
number
War,
5.
Spider-Man.
Let me see if I can find.
We can look at it.
Let me see if I can find. Oh, there it is. Skyrim. Skyrim's at 30 million. 30 million.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn
sits at number 19. Actually, sits just behind Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
There you go.
Like, and that's a generational game too. Like, that's a year-to-year game.
Uncharted 4 is at 16. Marvel Spider-Man is at 13.
I thought Uncharted beat it.
God of War is at 12. Horizon's at 10. Last of Us Remastered's at 10. Infamous is at 6. Final Fantasy Remake's at 5. Final Fantasy Remake sold 5 million since April of this year.
That's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive.
Because we still have a Christmas coming up, which I know a lot of people would probably end up.
Uh-huh.
Now I will say, I mean, as of March 20th, Animal Crossing sold 22.4 million copies.
Yes.
And
Well,
that was June 30th.
Nintendo attachment rate is super high, but Animal Crossing New Horizons is an abomination compared to a majority of Nintendo's properties because it is selling like crazy because of the pandemic. But
made them over $1 billion. Like, that blows my mind.
So
Jesus.
the big thing here is that the question is what's going to happen to these properties, right? Fallout has been played by numerous people. We have 120 something PS4 owners that have played a version of Fallout, or at least a portion of it, not all of them, but whoever the sales are. Skyrim, again, you're talking 30 million. ESO Online is staying on PS4, but there's no confirmation on PS5. I think there's a lot of turmoil into what this means for Sony console owners specifically.
I'm curious to see what the Elder Scrolls fans specifically say about this.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the Fallout fans are Fallout fans, and realistically, like, they still enjoy their old games, and as long as any game that Microsoft's Bethesda comes out with, you know, that's even remotely close to that, I think that their Fallout fans are going to enjoy that regardless. Elder Scrolls fans, with the modding community being what it is and everything else, I feel like are a little bit more particular, but I feel like both those games fall in the same vein. So I'm curious to see what maybe both communities say about this purchase. I feel like the initial knee-jerk reaction is going to be, oh, this is awful, and realistically, it's going to be just as bad as I was with, you know, Rocket League and Fortnite. Anyway, being a good Rocket League fan, of, oh, well, this is going to be awful for the community and all that. I still don't agree with the free to play and the new thing that you'll find down in the house selection about, you know, the Fortnite integration with Rocket League, but.
Come on, you get the llama cart.
I don't want to hear about it. So if like while I understand that kind of thing, it wasn't necessarily terrible for it either. You know, like Rocket League as an example, Rocket League was a pretty dying community to some extent too over time, just because the pro scene wasn't that big. Epic saw an opportunity to buy a pretty decently large company to bring them in. So Bethesda's huge for what they are. Yeah. Bethesda is one of the most well-known game brands in video games. Period. You know, you know who what the Fallout series is, and you know what the Elder Scrolls series is. No matter who you are, if in gaming, you know, like I'm curious to see what those communities think.
I think this is the big thing. I think this is the big push for this sale was, hey, we now have a prestige few games, right? Because we're talking about Doom, we're talking about Fallout, we're talking about Elder Scrolls, Wolfenstein. Like, these are franchises that are well revered. There's the brand new Netflix documentary on video games that goes all the way up literally to the launch of Doom. It ends, its finale is about how incredible Doom is and how it changes gaming. Like, I think the whole point of this was to build a level of prestige that Microsoft just doesn't have, despite the fact that Halo is very good, Forza is very good. Like, all these games are franchises are earth-shattering in their own way.
Sony's done so much better, though, in the last,
Agreed.
You know, like 2 generations of consoles, basically. But, you know, to really showcase what they can do with their hardware and what kind of game development platforms are available, what storylines are created from these amazing game setups too. This amazing hardware. So
let's not forget they took a lot of risk and they benefited from it. I mean, the revamp of God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, all of these things were,
I mean,
all these brand new IPs that are making them money and opening up new doors.
But I think
every single one of them is.
Good.
Sorry, I was just gonna say every single one of them. I would argue is a risk, right? Like Sucker Punch is known for Infamous, and they went and made a realistic interpretation of Feudal Japan. You know, the Naughty Dog was really good at Jack and Daxter. They left that to go do Uncharted, and they left that to go do Last of Us. Like, it's not that these people aren't talented, but it is still risky to make them, and they're successful every time because Sony says, "You're artist, figure it out. We'll figure out the budget, and we'll go from there."
And we've discussed multiple.
I was gonna say wildly different art styles for Jack and Daxter versus Uncharted,
100%, yeah,
or Last of Us even.
Yeah.
It just shows their range. God, they're so good.
They are so good.
I think Microsoft is really putting themselves with the cheaper console. I think people will go towards it because of its capabilities, what it costs. It's all digital, which means anything that's bought on it is more maximum profit, just like what Sony is probably trying to do. Though, interesting enough, their digital consoles are harder to find than the disc consoles. I don't know. We'll find out more about that later.
Yeah.
But going towards this and possibly giving themselves like a 6-month exclusivity on certain things like a new Doom or whatever will give them the monetary boost in their house, and then it'll go on, and then they'll get more money from the PlayStation market. Though as large as it is, and though as great as it might be, they're still going to be making the software money, and that's where I think they know most of the good cash is.
It depends, though, because it depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to sell
They're
consoles?
not making money on the hardware.
Are you trying to sell consoles, or are you trying to sell Game Pass?
Because Game Pass is a part of a thing. I think that was their last-ditch effort. I don't think they wanted to. I think Game Pass was the last-ditch effort to stay relevant during that generation. They got their asses handed to them with a DRM.
I disagree entirely.
I still think Game Pass is the long play.
Yeah, I think they said, "Okay, we don't care about consoles. We'll make another console to make people happy, and better yet, we'll make the most powerful console, quote unquote. So that way we can show our big dick energy." But I think ultimately Game Pass is their play. Like, I don't think they care.
I think they're losing money out their ass on Game Pass.
I think they're going to pull the Netflix route. Literally, we talked about how much they make, $400 billion in a year.
Yeah, they're also struggling too.
135, $400 billion in like 3 years or whatever.
4 years. Okay. But let's even it out. $100 billion a year. They could leverage themselves to go ahead and eat the cost of Game Pass every year for the next 10 years to put Sony out of business. Like,
don't get me wrong. If they're talking about playing chess, yeah, absolutely. But if you're talking about making money on the product,
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. I think they care entirely about getting people to their platform.
I think Game Pass is probably the biggest moneymaker they could have, especially now that they own the company. Especially now that they own Bethesda, like they can add a ton of things to that. But okay, 300. What was it? $299 for the Series S.
$5 more. Oh no, $300. Yeah, for the Series
$300. $299 for the Series S, and what was it? $599 or $499 for the Series X.
Yeah, $500 total.
$499. So, do you really like? I guess consoles obviously aren't the long play for them. If the Series S, like, even though it is still a downgrade technically from the One X, technically, I don't think that consoles are the play for them if they're pricing them this low from a hardware perspective. I think
just want them in the door.
I think that Game Pass is still the long play for them because it also gives them not just the game selection available on Xbox, but the portability from PC to Xbox. Like, again,
and mobile phone, because you can stream now.
Exactly. And 87% of the market share on personal computing platforms being Windows based, that opens up the market share not just to the people who buy the console, but to people who already own Windows PCs to be able to play the games.
Now not to be, I know that no, I don't know that the save states travel between PC to Xbox.
It depends.
I haven't played
what I developer brain here of it will probably be the same that Steam has, where Steam Cloud is available to any developer that publishes on Steam, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to use it. Now, if you use Steam Cloud, you can move between systems. Now, if you use Windows or if you use Microsoft's X Cloud system, whatever they would call their save state system for universal transfer, it would probably transfer between console and desktop.
Because I know PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 save state not going to be a thing,
right?
Which I think is a huge ball.
And the other thing too is
only for Spider-Man they've confirmed. They haven't confirmed the rest.
I'll say game companies could technically come up with their own system of cloud saves between them if they really wanted to. Correct. Like, if you wanted to really make a system to move your save state from PS4 to PS5, you can do that with a conversion practice. Again, developer side of things, you can do a conversion practice from one to the other and vice versa, back and forth, or a median file format, to handle that. And the idea is that one just opens the data it needs versus the other. It's really not that terrible, but like Steam Save State, of course, is just PC to PC. Not a huge deal, but Microsoft could easily make that available at least to developers to say, you can build your own file formats to do this here, available for each profile in a nice orderly format for free or part of your developer license to include. And it would make it super simple to be able to move between Xbox One, Xbox Series, I'm just going to call it Series, and PC if you really wanted to move back and forth.
So I also want to point out a couple of other things too, right? Because we're comparing them a little bit to Game Pass to Netflix or trying to be something like that. Right. Looking at the cost of a film that Netflix puts out, it's on average between $40 and $80 million per film. Now, it just depends on the film. They can go as low as 20, but on average, 40 to 80 millions. To develop a game that's in the AAA range, which is what Microsoft is aiming for, we're looking at an average of about $150 million. Now, the range does go from 15 to 150, but again, it just depends on the type of game and what you're going for.
How much work? Like if you're talking about developing Skyrim or I'm sorry, Elder Scrolls, period, any Elder Scrolls game or any Fallout game, period, you're probably talking closer to that 150 million mark. So
correct. Netflix has a viewership of about 183 million global subscribers. Game Pass is now at about 15 million. We have discussed on this show multiple times about how the fact that despite the global subscription of Netflix, they are still hemorrhaging money quite a bit. And again, Microsoft being the parent company, they can do this.
Revenue comes from other streams, though.
The question is, how long are they going to want to do this? That is going to be a factor involved in it, because I do believe that, especially when we're talking about these other entities coming involved, because it's not one game, it's not just those games, but it's similar to Netflix where you have to make deals with other companies in order to get those games available on your platform to be used. And also, depending on how you do it, because of the way that they're doing cross-generational, if you're talking about being able to stream or to download a version of Fallout 4 is owned by them now. So let's say FIFA, right? FIFA on your Xbox One is going to be one version. FIFA on your Xbox Series X is going to be another version. So they have to pay for both variations of it. It's a situation that movies don't really have an issue with, because when you get the rights to one version of Avengers, you have Avengers. It doesn't matter if it's HD or not, you just get the ability to upscale that. That's not how that works in video games. They're two separate platforms, two separate copyrights, so therefore you have to pay for both.
It's funny, when you rent it, you are charged whether you want a standard HD or 4K version, but not when you buy it.
But I just find all these complications to be super interesting, because I think that's going to it's going to build on top of itself over time.
I was gonna say part of the argument we were also, or I guess maybe the assumption of, I guess the comparison with Netflix and Game Pass there would be that every new game that's released is immediately available on Game Pass.
It is. So far, as according to Microsoft, they will release every single first-party title on Game Pass.
Right, but I guess the assumption might be offhand for them anyway, from a business perspective, that this will probably be a loss right off the rip. I mean, aside from the $7.5 billion shelled out, for the purchase in the first place, it will probably be a loss. But the point will be, over a long term, they've got a control over a very large, company or a very large developer suite, to handle this. I mean,
they're making
like
$225 million a year on Game Pass right now if their concurrent subscriber
right.
stays at 15 million.
But
games like ESO, people are going to play for months and months and months and months. They will make their money back within 4 months.
I mean, Skyrim sort of, and Skyrim may be a bad example just because it might be the top end of this, but Skyrim has grossed $450 million for Bethesda.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a triple return, even if it is at the top end spectrum of the $150 million for development. So, if they don't release any new games, for example, the new was it because Skyrim was Elder Scrolls
5, 6 is coming out. They're working on it now. 4 was Oblivion.
Right. 4 was Oblivion. I don't know why I thought Oblivion was 7, but no. So Elder Scrolls 6, for example, would probably be a private release of pay for your copy.
Yeah. Well,
easy peasy.
No. They're going to do it on Game Pass according to their stipulations now, as far as we know. That may change. I wouldn't be surprised if it changed, but as far as we understand it, Microsoft has said day and date, all of their first-party titles are on Game Pass.
And I don't know how they're going to make money on this.
So, and I think
they're hoping that people stay on, don't buy the game because they're like, well, I could pay for the game, but I'm going to have access to it anyway. So what's the point of buying it? But I'm going to mainly play this game, but I'll have access to all these other ones.
They also end up with people like me who purchased it. Like I bought it. I ended up buying Game Pass for PC. Now this is a beta, of course, but I ended up buying Game Pass for PC because I played Minecraft Dungeons as part of the Co-op Crew series. Check it out. Releases every Monday. But I don't use it for anything else. Like I bought Microsoft Flight Simulator, whatever, the top tier deluxe edition because I'm a super Microsoft Flight Simulator fan, but that's about it. Like I don't really feel the need to use Game Pass for anything else. I'm still paying the monthly subscription because we're still playing, but that's about it. Like I don't really use it for anything else. So of course, like I'm probably a part of their bigger market share because or revenue stream from that because I'm not playing any of the games. I'm just straight up paying the subscription fee.
And the other thing, too, is there is a flip side of the coin. In the same way that Netflix has revolutionized how we watch movies and how it's become economical for people who don't have a lot of money to watch movies, Game Pass will help those who don't have a whole lot of cash to play games. Because, again, 87% of people who own computers have a Windows PC of some sort, right? Like, they're able to actually play that. And with the streaming coming with xCloud, paying $10 a month to be able to play a multitude of games on your smartphone, which a majority of people have, even if you're on the lower end of the economic spectrum. I mean, I do think there are some benefit in an accessibility spectrum, like game cost is going up. We talked about that last week where PlayStation is going to release their titles at $70 for their first party. So $70 is even more. That's 7 months worth of Game Pass. If you can promise that you're going to give me Halo and Gears and now Bethesda titles for $70, like for my $10 a month, why would I not want to? I think there's some value here. The question really does become, you have now bought an irreverent company. They have franchises that are well beloved across the spectrum. Are you going to hold back? Or are you going to keep it on your own? It makes business sense, financial sense. I would, if you're talking about running a company.
Well, with PlayStation, we talked about, the average person buys in average 2 games a year. That would be $140 a year. Mm-hmm. At $15 times 12, you're getting more than that. You're getting about 2.5 games worth of them out a year.
So it's $15 on PC, but it depends on the deal too, which is what they run a lot.
Well, the Game Pass Ultimate is all going to be wrapped up, right? Like, it's not going to be a differentiation.
So currently, there's still only the 10 and 15. 10 on console, 15 on PC.
For some reason, I thought, I don't know.
So they've talked about it. They haven't confirmed or moved in that direction yet. So, but even still, if you're talking $15 a month for when you rent it, as someone who's running Microsoft's team, I wouldn't put it on PlayStation. I would 100% say, guess what? You have to sign up for Game Pass. You have to play it on your PC or wherever else.
Or make Game Pass suddenly available for PlayStation.
So that requires.
I think they'll make more than enough with the exclusivity. They'll get the money, people coming up front to get on their system, and those who don't have an Xbox or are stuck are going to get it later on their PlayStation, and they'll get that software money.
Now, it's also important
depending on this, how this, iOS, Apple, like Play Store versus
that's
App
another
Store thing goes.
yeah.
Realistically, like Microsoft could claim the realistic side of this is Microsoft could try to push Game Pass on PlayStation. Sony could straight up say no. But depending on how this iOS versus Android thing goes versus Epic thing goes, Microsoft could go, well, you're trying to go for some antitrust practices. You're trying to go monopolistic, aren't you? We want to be able to push our marketplace on your platform.
That would be a dangerous precedent.
It would be really interesting to see, but again, we're having.
I love how no matter what episode it is, we keep coming back to this Apple versus Epic thing.
100%.
I don't think they're going to win this. I just don't. There's no way you could force someone to sell something in their store. You just can't.
But on an entire platform is different, or might be different. We'll find out.
We'll find out. So I do think that Sony. Yeah, I do think Sony has to find a way to respond to this. There are rumors that they have thought about buying Square Enix or Capcom, which would make sense to me. Japanese company buying a Japanese company, just like we had a Western company buy a Western company. But any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No. I think Microsoft's in a good position now. I'm curious to see what they do with it from a revenue stream, because without increasing the price of Game Pass or selling games outside of Game Pass and going against their own word, I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
Yeah.
Time will tell, baby.
Yep. Please let us know what your thoughts are on Bethesda's acquisition by Microsoft in the comments, floating directly above, like right next to my Jurassic Park poster. You see it right there? Like it's right there. I see it. You can tickle it. But now I think it's time for last call.
You like to tickle it.
Last call. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here as I take a sip.
I hate this.
As you can tell, we are in our own quarantine bunkers, drinking our own special guests. I have some Slane Irish whiskey I've been sipping slowly on. Very big fan. It's a little bit bolder than the average Jameson. Enjoyed it quite a bit, as well as a spooky vodka tonic. What about you, John?
I upgraded to the liter version of Jameson Black Barrel.
Ooh, look at it. It's so sexy. What about you there, dispatcher?
So I haven't been to the liquor store in a while to get some whiskey since I ran out, but I am actually drinking a kind of a spooky drink here. I'm drinking a Flying Dutchman.
Ooh,
oh, nice. I like it.
Which is
not October yet.
If you didn't know, it's 3 parts gin and 1 part orange liqueur or a triple sec. Be careful.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a creeper right there.
Be very careful.
Of course, you can always.
This is why I told you at the beginning of the show I needed to slow down. Damn it.
You can always join us on our Discord. We had a wonderful conversation about the pre-orders and dogs today. We talked a lot about dogs.
Yeah, doggos,
including my own dogs. But speaking of dogs, Humble has a Pet the Dog bundle. That's right. They've reached out to game developers that allow you to pet the dog in their games. So for $1, you can get Scribblenauts Unlimited, Bulba Boy, I've never heard of that one, Dog Sled Saga, and Beyond Eyes for the average, which is less than $5, where the water tastes like wine. I might get that because I've heard that's really good. Death's Gambit and Shenmue 1 and 2. And then finally for $12, you also get Blair Witch Project, which lets you pet the dog. You also get the soundtrack for Bulb Boy and Dog Sled Saga, and all of these go to the Best Friends Animal Society as well as Sweet Farm. Of course, you can change whatever you would like for whatever charity you prefer, but I do highly recommend checking out Humble because all of their proceeds go to both the company, the developer, or I guess all the company, the developer, and the charity of your choice. Finally, for some cool ass this week, there's an anime that has recently released. A lot of videos are on YouTube, but it took 4 years to make, and it was made on a 3DS using Flipnote Studio. If you don't know, Flipnote Studio is a really cool animation software on the 3DS. Allowed you to use the stylus. My brother and also fellow Strange Gaming Network individual B-Scotch to Dots used to use it all the time, but somebody took 4 years to make an anime. It's actually really, really cool. Check it out below. And of course, the dispatcher himself sent us a 4-minute video from Microsoft that includes the 40-year video highlights of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Mark, if that's you trying to look at a video, you got to mute it, buddy, because I can hear it real bad.
I did not realize you could hear it. No,
yeah, we know you're watching porn while we're doing this. Okay.
No, actually, I brought up the video about the 3DS animation. So
yeah,
sure.
But the Flight Simulator video is actually really cool. Highlights 40 years. That's right. Microsoft Flight Simulator has been around for 40 years. That's a long franchise in the video game industry. And then the final cool ass is a ranked list on Amazon of the Amazon error dogs. Check it out. It's well worth looking at if you like doggos. And finally, for our question of the week, this is a little bit more of an odd one, but I think it's really cool nonetheless. What did you think? What did you used to think is? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what happened here.
You son of a bitch.
He just put in stupid stuff. What did you used to think is cool back in the day that you don't think is cool now? So I've got a really adult one that I'm going to say
Jinko
first.
jeans.
I'm intrigued. Go ahead.
Well, John jumped ahead of me, so we're going with Jinko jeans. No,
Couldn't
you're
see
right.
anything. Go for
I'm
it.
actually right there with you. My second one was baggy jeans.
Yeah.
Like
I used to think baggy jeans is the thing. The baggier, the better, man. It was like the thing. Now I'm like, granted, I'm not wearing crotch huggers or anything, but it's like I can't wear the pants that your brothers wear. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that was
I can't either.
That hurt me watching them wear those pants. But yeah,
fortunately, I won't have any nephews or nieces.
Oh wow,
it's pretty tight, man. I was like, how are you sitting down?
Yeah,
level. But yeah, I don't know. I got over it. And now I'm like very much like, a little bit of looseness, but that's it.
Yeah, boot cut. I just need a boot cut. I'm good. I'm right there with you. My like super like I'm an adult one is not caring. Like not caring used to be so fucking cool. And it is easily one of my biggest annoyances with people today of like, well, I don't have to care about that. Like, no, it's not cool anymore. You're not cool because you don't have to care about something. Like, you should be empathetic to other people. That is cool. That is like, as weird as I'm old man in my lawn, it's cool to care about people, but
being
it really
considerate is cool.
Yeah, like, come on. I can't stand it now. It's such a selfish mentality. And
being a decent human being, that's cool.
I completely understand, when you're at a certain age, it's hard to empathize, but as you get older, you go one way or the other. And I'm definitely leaning towards the other where I am empathizing all the time.
We only have so much mind share as you get old. Have to prioritize.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. So I think that's my major answer. What about you, Dispatcher?
I don't know. I mean, the easy answer is like some of the old fads that used to be in the day, like Aeropostale or Hollister. That shit used to matter to me back in high school. Like that was always the big thing when I was in.
It's
the pop collar.
Thank you.
Oh Jesus Christ! Don't give me that northern versus southern pronunciation bullshit. Being from Philadelphia or being like, or I'm sorry, having family from Philadelphia and then being raised in North Carolina brought me up with two different pronunciations of Aeropostale versus Aeropostale that it drove me fucking nuts. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things I used to think that were cool back in the day, I guess that I don't find cool now. I mean, like actually, like even though we're on the Happy Hour podcast, like I used to think getting shit-faced was cool back in the day.
Yeah.
Like back in college, like getting shit-faced was straight up, like the cool thing you could do anyway, especially when I was part of a fraternity. So, now I don't care. Hell, I was talking at the beginning of this episode specifically about how I need to slow down with what I'm drinking right now because I don't want to get as shit-faced as I was probably 2 episodes ago, if you didn't know, by the way.
To be fair, your fraternity brothers are never fun when you're the only one sober.
Fair.
Also fair.
It was quite literally to make it fun.
Fair. John knows he was also in a fraternity too.
Yes, I was. No, Brent hung out with us all the time.
I did.
I don't know. The only other thing I could think of was for middle school. Remember those bracelets? They were like different colors,
Oh,
they all meant
yeah,
different
they all meant
things.
different
And if you
things.
broke it, you had to like do a specific action,
Or if it was
whether
So I
it
used
was
to call
sex
them-
or
sexual
blowjobs
meanings
or
and
whatever.
everything too. Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
they're called sex bracelets, and I only had black, which was the one where it's like you gotta fuck if you break.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, to be young again.
I
Such an
know.
old man. Please let us know what it is
God.
that you used to think is cool that is not cool anymore. It doesn't matter your age. You could have thought something was cool last week and it's not cool anymore. Let us know in the comments floating
Hey,
directly
Fugsy.
above me because there's like a timer above me. If you don't know on Discord, there's like a 4 window thing and then there's a timer above me. But anyway,
above me. It's above
until
you too.
next time, cheers.
Cheers.